Hi, my name is Chandler Crouch. I am talking with Wes Bullock. He is a candidate for the Tarrant County Appraisal District Board of Directors seat. And I wanted to just sit down with him and so you can get to hear a little bit about why he's running and get to know Wes a little bit. And so, Wes, before we jump into any other questions, I was thinking it might be nice for the people watching for you to just give a little introduction about yourself and give people an idea of who you are and where you come from.
Yeah, I'm Wes Bullock. I live in Keller. I'm employee in the defense industry for over 30 years. I'm a very analytical type person, very time crunched, but I do like to see that things are done right, especially in a public arena.
All right, terrific. Well, this election is a unique election. It's not like a normal election where everybody gets to vote. Only the taxing entities get to vote. So they're people that sit on the city council or board of trustees, members of the board of trustees, or maybe the commissioner's court. Those are the only people that get to vote. But there may also be some taxpayers that get to watch this. And so just thought it might be good to kind of speak to each group individually. And so let's start with the first group, the folks that are going to actually get to place a vote in this election. And so, Wes, if you had to speak directly to the city council members and trustees on the school board or people with these taxing entities and give them a little insight as to why you are running, what would you say?
Well, why I'm running is I, even though I don't sit on any taxing entity board, and never have, that side of the equation is kind of unknown to me. I've dealt with TAD as a homeowner and a taxpayer, but the little that I've dealt with them in terms of protests and trying to get information from them, I've walked away a little disappointed. So usually when there's that kind of situation, and then of course I also read an article once a few weeks ago that kind of described a toxic culture there, and it didn't surprise me at all, because usually when there's some kind of situation like what I ran into, that's what you call smoke, and when there's smoke, there's usually fire. And so I come at TAD kind of thinking that there needs to be some reform in that area, in that agency. And I had never looked into before just how TAD is ran, but then I had some people explain to me how it worked, that they were overseen by a board, and that board, anyone can try to be on the board. You have to be nominated by someone in the taxing entity. I was nominated by the city of Benbrook. But the taxing entity piece of that, I take that back to the other side. You guys have your, on issues, but you do represent people. You do in your own way. You're voted in by the people, and so it all goes back to them. So even though I don't see your side of this, I do see your side from the perspective of a person who lives and pays taxes in the district.
About that. Yep. And I think that's an important thing that a lot of the people that hold a position at these taxing entities are aware of, is that they know that they're beholden to the taxpayers, and who they vote for is something that they'll be held accountable for. And so they have that fiduciary duty to the taxpayers to make sure that they're doing a good job to vote in the right people for these different positions. So very good. Well, I would love to go down the road to talk to the taxpayers a little bit, but is there anything else you'd like to share about, any other issues or anything, any topics that you're interested in, or any other areas that relate to the taxing entities of why you're running, or does that pretty much sum it up?
Well, it's kind of the word that keeps coming to my mind is transparency. I like to see transparency, especially if it in some way is spending public money, or in this case, spending and collecting it. There needs to be transparency. The more transparency that you have, the better people feel about it. And I'm told, I've never seen the statistics, that Tarrant County has a huge protest rate compared to Dallas and other areas in the state, and that's embarrassing. We shouldn't have that. Our county should have a system that the people trust, at least as much as they trust it in Dallas. That's very embarrassing to me. I deal with Dallas people, and that subject never comes up, but I could be ribbed a little bit for that. That it's almost backward, and so it is an embarrassment, and I would say it's an embarrassment to every taxing entity in the county. So even though the transparency issue is there, but still, what I've told the school boards when I talk to them is that, where I work, we have a slogan, because it says, "We never forget who we work for," because that goes back to, we provide equipment to men and women who depend on it to work for their very lives. And so what I promised them is that when I'm on the board, I will work to ensure that the Tarrant Appraisal District never forgets who they actually work for, which is the taxing entities and the taxpayers. And through the taxing entities, especially in the school boards, that's why it always came to mind in a school board, is that because the essential customer and stakeholder there are children, and that's important. So the collection and the distribution of taxes and the appraisals, how that's the basis it goes on, the more transparency we have there, the better that's going to work.
That's an interesting point. Involved. Yeah, that's an interesting point I haven't really thought of, is that you said stakeholder, it's almost like the beneficiary are the kids on the school district side, because they're the ones that receive the education that the funding is there for. It's something that it's obvious, but it's not too many people have made that point. I think that's interesting. Well, and you've also mentioned taxpayer, and I'm a taxpayer, and that's certainly why I'm involved. It's just that I'm taking a personal interest in this, and every person that's sitting on a city council or a school board trustee or any of the other taxing entities, the commissioner's court and so on, they all represent the taxing entities, but they're also taxpayers. And drawing this line of who is ultimately the person cutting the check, where all this money comes from, is the taxpayer. And so even though the taxpayer doesn't get a vote in this election, the taxpayer may want to be involved and reach out to their locally elected representatives and urge them to cast their vote for a particular candidate. And so if you were talking directly to the taxpayer and about why you're asking for their vote, and talking to them from the taxpayer perspective, what would you say?
Well, it'd be kind of difficult in some cases to explain broadly to them how all this works, because I'm just learning how it works. As the taxing entities vote in this board, which oversees the district, and but what I would tell them is that especially in Tarrant County, if you've had problems dealing with TAD, that's a symptom probably of a much deeper rooted problem. And like I said before, how I've worded it, where there's smoke, there's fire. So then they need to be overseen much more closely and at a different level. And the board's 5 members, if there's going to be any reform of that agency, it's going to be through that board. And so the taxpayers need someone on the board who is reform minded, or nothing will ever change. And since they can't vote themselves for it, then all they can do is one is to make sure that their representative on the taxing entity, the city council or the school board, are aware that they know of the issue, and make them aware. And then if they are unresponsive to that, then hold them accountable for it. And when they're up for election again, make sure that their opponent can use that you have notified them you don't like the people on the board, especially the ones they may have nominated and voted for themselves. We need reform on there, so that agency can be reformed, and then take that to heart. It's not a direct thing they can do. It's very indirect, and that's kind of the hard part of it. It doesn't affect anybody, or they can't affect it directly, but they sure can indirectly.
Mm-hmm. Well, Wes, I just want to thank you personally, because you are willing to stand up and serve on a board where you're not going to get a paycheck, and all you're doing is standing up for what you believe in, what you think is right, to play a role in helping make your community a better place. And my personal opinion is that the more people we get involved to do that and to just get involved in the system, the more folks like you that I just want to mention, you admitted that you're just learning some of this stuff. And to me, there's something refreshing about that you're just a normal person that said, hey, I recognize there's something here that I want to change. I want to get involved. And there's something refreshing about that, just to see that that you've been willing to take an active role in making your community a better place. And so I want to thank you for your willingness to run, and I wish you the best of luck in this election. Is there anything else that you want to talk about before we wrap things up here?
No, it's just that, this election is almost over. But I'd urge anyone out there to do is keep tabs on this. That apathy and people not getting involved. That is not a good situation. That's when agencies can get out of control if the public's not watching them. So the board watches the agency, but the public can watch both of them, and keep an eye on it, and be sure and let the people who do vote know whether you're happy or not with it. This is something that affects your daily life. If you're a renter in an apartment, your rent depends on the taxes your landlord pays. And if you own a home, you see that bill every year. And so it does affect you directly. And it's one of your most expensive endeavors.
Man, I couldn't have said it better myself. And I can't thank you again for being willing to step up and serve and get involved. And I love that you're urging other people to do the same. And I tend to agree with you. The more people we have involved, even if we disagree, our system will be better for more people get involved. And so thank you for that. And Wes, that's all I got. So let's go ahead and sign off here. Thank you so much. And I wish you the best of luck with this election.